a tool for thought. It's a means of expressing thought. And on the side, you can use it for communication, as you can use anything else for communication. Now that gives, actually, if you just introspect for a minute, that shouldn't be surprising. Just ask yourself, what is most of your own use of language? Well, if you introspect, it turns out that probably 99% of it is talking to yourself. Talking to yourself is not communicating. You can't. It takes a tremendous act of will not to talk to yourself. Try it. It's very hard. You're walking down the street. You're talking to yourself in fragments of sentences. It goes on all night, unfortunately. But and sometimes it's used for communication, but even the external part is not much. Well, that's a radically different conception of fundamental human nature. And it does lead to, in other directions, like at least exploring these thoughts about creative work, about moral judgment, and so on. And I think, I don't want to exaggerate. This is by no means universally accepted, even among scientists, but I think that's the direction in which work has been moving. And I think it is a way of finding out basic things about what kind of creatures we are.
Noam, thank you, but we are running out of time and a decision has to be made. There's so much left to ask you. We haven't spoken about a universal moral grammar. We haven't spoken about free will, the existence of free will, and I also want to know what the sources of your own inspiration are. But we also need to take questions from the floor. So I propose a referendum. We have 10 minutes left. Would you like us to continue with these questions, or? Okay, those who object. Okay. All right, thank you. No, just quickly. I didn't hear that, sorry. Oh, look, I'm sorry, but I think, being a democracy, you've been outvoted. Maybe Professor Chomsky will take one from you personally at the end. Would you be happy with that? Just quickly, Noam, if possible, please. You're an institute professor at the most distinguished engineering institute in the world. Can you comment briefly about the role of elite academic institutions? They don't appear to be very radical places, but you've been there now for over half a century. Can they contribute to social change, or are they a barrier to change?
Well, my own institution's a good example. It is, I think it's fair to say, the greatest engineering science-based university in the world, and it was back in the 1950s when I got there. In the 1950s, first of all, it was almost entirely Pentagon funded. But contrary to what a lot of people believe, that was the freest period. The Pentagon didn't care what you were doing. During the 1960s, the laboratory in which I worked was 100% funded by the three armed services. It was also the center of anti-war resistance. I don't mean protest, I mean resistance. That meant support for deserters, tax resistance, technically criminal activities. I was coming up for a long jail sentence.